Ole Miss should go after these 5 players in the transfer portal and call it a day.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, a former staff member at Ole Miss and a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports. Today on the show, we talk about how Trent Howland visiting Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin is making the Rebs actually in the market for a scheme change type back in Howland or Peny Boone. We may see Ole Miss play a little bit slower than they have in the past, simply because they can. We also talk about the potential top 5 in football in the transfer portal. And thank you to the TJ Oxley from the Rebel Walk that we know that ShaPadulla is now a former Oklahoma commit. And that will help the Rebels moving forward potentially. Anyway, this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. We're free and available in all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you very much for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers that make the show what it is. There is still time to join the Grove Collective and help Ole Miss sports moving forward. Go to thegrovecollective.com and join today for as little as $20 a month. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Really interesting stuff. We talked about the visit going on yesterday and potentially today with Trent Howland, the running back out of Indiana, and how big of a deal that is. Now, one of the things I'd like to talk about, Trent Howland is from Joliet, Illinois, which is right near where Laquan Treadwell played high school football, his neck of the woods a little bit. I don't know if these are related, but it's kind of funny that he's a Joliet kid as well, which is basically a Chicago area kid. He is a big running back, 6'3", 240 pounds. Ole Miss has already added Ja'Cory Crosky Merritt, who had 189 carries, 1,190 yards, and 17 touchdowns a year ago for the New Mexico Lobos. He is transferring in. He's 5'11", 205 pounds. He fits the role of that mid-level running back. But with a player like Trent Howland, Ole Miss can completely change what they're doing offensively. One of the things that Ole Miss has had has been a dearth, an abundance, I should say, of skill position type players, but they don't have the variety necessarily. For instance, if you look at the running back room currently and the players that have transferred in, they're all roughly about the same profile of a running back. And that is they're 180 to 205 pounds. They're 5'9" to 5'11". They can do a lot of the same things really well, but the fact of it is there's not a change of pace type running back. And because of that, or maybe as a result of that, Ole Miss relies on tempo a lot of the time. And you see this with the running backs that they switch in and out of their offense. And they go at lightning fast speeds, relying on the defense to make mistakes. I talk to you all the time that Ole Miss's offense is actually fairly simple. It has to be because they want to go so quickly, they need to be able to execute it. So the offense has to be simple where they get their advantages by going fast. I think the offense may be about to get a little bit more complex. They may be about to add some stuff into their offense, and that is because of a Trent Howland type commitment. I think he's absolutely a player that Ole Miss should go all in to sign this running back because it would help this offense as a whole. This is a 4-minute offense type of running back. This is somebody that will allow you to play a little bit slower. When everybody knows that you're going to run the ball, can you run the football? We've all seen over the last couple of years, whenever the other team guesses right with what's going on, it can be difficult to run the ball in short yardage situations. When they know that you are going to run the ball, it can be difficult to do so. This type running back would allow you to just run it anyway, to kind of be that power back, to kind of make the linebackers consistently think about rushing forward to stop the run. We always talk about the engage 8 type stuff that other teams were doing to Ole Miss because of blocking schemes and all of that stuff. This is going to make them do it, and you want them to do it, okay? This is the important part. You want them to do the engage 8 type stuff. It's going to open up different parts of your ball game because of what this running back can do. I think this is a really potentially the number one target that is on the board for Ole Miss at the moment. That's just my opinion, but I think he is number one. Another big style running back is Peny Boone, who was at Toledo. He's the MAC Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year a year ago. Transferred to Louisville. Something happened. They had some kind of a breakup online. It was messy. Now all of a sudden he's saying, hey, I could end up staying at Louisville. Hey, this bridge has not been burned. I could stay here. And that kind of lets me know that he might be sitting a little bit further down on the pecking order than Trent Howland. Now, where does Ole Miss stand with Henry Parish? I think Ole Miss should sign Henry Parish if he's available. I do think that Ole Miss has been needing to do to the running back room what they did to the quarterback room a year ago. I think whenever you take a Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt and pop him on there and see what he can do, whenever you take a Ulysses Bentley, who, you know, for as talented as he is, and I've called him a plus Jerry and Ely for multiple years, he is somebody that because of the injury bug, you need depth behind him. You need pieces behind him. You can't necessarily count on him. So bringing him in, having Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, taking a Henry Parish type running back. And Henry Parish, 100 carries, 625 yards, 6 touchdowns. He can do a little bit of everything. He's not the biggest back in the world, but he's reliable and you can count on exactly what he's going to do. I think Ole Miss absolutely, if they can sign Henry Parish Jr., they should sign Henry Parish Jr., which would give Ole Miss 3 running backs potentially in this portal cycle. I think the 3 running backs that Ole Miss should take, in my opinion, you got Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, you've got Trent Howland, and you've got Henry Parish Jr. Put them in the running back room, turn them loose, and hopefully the hopeful result that everybody is going to see is that Kedrick Reesano becomes so valuable over the course of the season that their playing time gets less and less and less. I think that's the ideal result of what's going on. Now, we talked about a scheme change in Ole Miss's offense. Now, the offense is never going to completely change, okay? It's going to be tempo. It's going to be all of that stuff. But we're talking about wrinkles. We're talking about roles, not holes in this offense. And one of the things schematically that Ole Miss might do, and we've talked about this many times, is 12 personnel. When you have a 4-minute offense type situation, when you have a 240-pound running back that you can put in the game, hey, put him in at the beginning of a series and just kind of turn him loose. It might be a situation to where he has 8 or 9 carries over the course of the game. But in the fourth quarter, after teams have been struggling so much to tackle Ulysses Bentley, Kedrick Reesano, Henry Parish, Ja'Cory Merritt, when they've been struggling to tackle them, how about then you put in the bruiser with 12 personnel into a 4-minute offense type situation and just run the clock down. This is what this transfer portal can do for Ole Miss football. This is how Ole Miss can improve itself over this portal window. Now, there are other players that Ole Miss needs to go after as well, and we'll talk about those in the next segment. But this running back room, and we've talked an awful lot about running backs over the last couple of weeks. I understand that, but that's because it's important. And it's important that people understand the difference between roles and holes. Ole Miss is taking 3 running backs potentially, at least 2, not because they have to, but because they can. Lane Kiffin is playing 4D chess right now. Or we see the tweets all the time of him playing chess, not checkers. You've seen that. Well, this is a situation to where he can make the offense a little bit more explosive, a little bit more multiple without doing that much. It could be just a personnel tweak, and all of a sudden, 4-minute offense, you have 12 personnel with Dae'quan Wright and Caden Prieskorn. You've got Trent Howland in the backfield, and you are just beating the heck out of the defense. Now, you still have all of the receiving options and things you can do with the receiving core that is going to be potentially the best wide receiver group in the nation. When you add in this threat of running the football, I think that is very, very important for what Ole Miss can be. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day. After running back, these are 3 names that I think Ole Miss should go after this window. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, what makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time has taken the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last night, Rays, Tigers, saw it. It was awesome. And I used Game Time to get tickets for that event because of the views from the seats. You can get these panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy. And I use that to find where I could go and get a ticket to see that sweet left-handed swing. It's one of my favorite things in all of sports. It's a sweet major league left-handed swing. They have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. You know, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball season is in full swing. FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Right now, you can bet on whether or not Ole Miss will make the 2024 college football playoff. Currently, a yes bet for that is at minus 122, or roughly 54% probability. I found that pretty interesting. You can bet on anything on that app, and you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on this app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sports book. Locked On NFL Mock Draft is now available. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear the local Locked On experts who they're picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from college football experts and even the fantasy football angle if that floats your boat. Locked On NFL Mock Draft is available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, it's really interesting. We talked about in the whole first segment, we continued to talk running backs, and we're going to talk running backs because this transfer portal window right now in Ole Miss football is about running backs. But there are other players that people need to pay attention to as well. And in this, we're going to call this the top 5 players that Ole Miss should recruit this transfer portal window. And one of the players that I think that Ole Miss needs to look at is Keyron Crawford. He's an edge player. We talked all the time. We've all heard rumors about Tyler Barron, and if Tyler Barron transfers from Louisville and gets out and gets in the portal and goes to Ole Miss, that totally would not surprise me. This is a player, though, that is interesting to me. He's 6'5", 235 pounds. He's from Arkansas State. He is a Briarcrest kid, which means that Hugh Freeze and Auburn probably has connections to get him on the Plains. But if Ole Miss can get a player like this, they should try to get a player like this. Because, again, I say this all the time, and I'm going to say this for the better part of the next 2 months. Ole Miss is looking for players to fill roles, not holes on offense and defense. They have the ability to play 4D chess. You're not getting bodies to line up. You're finding people that can do specific things. He's a quick twitch guy. He's somebody that can fill in. And with the unknowns, I guess you can say, of Princely Immanuelen, who I think is going to eventually be fine. Once all this shakes out, is going to be fine, but everybody's going to freak out until then. I think this is another quick twitch player that you can put in and provide, at least in burst, similar stuff to what Princely Immanuelen can do. Now, Princely is a first-round level NFL edge. You're not going to just replace this one for one. We are not Alabama. We are never going to be Alabama or Georgia. We're going to have to put things together and put the best team on the field as possible. And this is the best roster that Ole Miss football has had in my lifetime. But Keyron Crawford would offer a little bit of the pass rush stuff, a little bit of the quick switch stuff that might be teachable as well. Now, another player that I think that Ole Miss needs to strongly look at is Demouy Kennedy. He's a linebacker that's transferring from the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, if you go off of what Jordan Rodgers said during the Grove Bowl games, or whatever you want to call it, that's kind of like X at this point, or Twitter, whatever it is, in the Grove Bowl, Demouy Kennedy would fit his saying that Pete Golding said he wanted another linebacker in that room. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. He probably needs to gain a little bit of weight. He doesn't necessarily fit the profile, but he transferred from Alabama, which means he spent multiple years in a Pete Golding defense. So the learning curve would not be that much. You would know exactly what you would get on both sides of the coin. Demouy Kennedy started, I think, several games at Colorado a year ago. Not necessarily that means anything, but he did get on the field. It would be a situation to where if he didn't, that'd be a little bit of a different story. I think Demouy Kennedy would fit that linebacker role and not necessarily come in and be the dude that would be necessarily a threat for Chris Paul, or TJ Dudley or Suntaran Perkins. It would allow you to put some depth in the room, but not shake up the apple cart. So this is a guy that I would look at as well. Now, finally, this is going to be weird, okay? I understand that. I think Ole Miss should try and at least make a swing, and you should not overpay for him. I think you should only go after him if you can get him at a bargain, and that is Cormani McClain. He's a cornerback out of Lakeland, Florida. He is another player that was in Colorado. Now, whenever you are too much of a diva for Deion Sanders, that gives me pause. And when you look at the schools to where he is the likely landing spot for, it's like Memphis, USF, and UCF. So it's a clear group of 5 level drop down from Colorado, which makes me think a Power 5 school that is going to be hunting for the playoff would have a chance to get this guy. Now, the problem would be, this is a guy that would refuse to do media when he was at the Under Armour All-American game. I sat there and watched that happen 10 feet away, okay? It was something where it's like, okay, this guy's a diva. And then that's whenever it was like, hey, he's at Florida, but he could end up at Miami. And it's even before Colorado came onto the scene. So we'll see how it goes. But USF and UCF, they're going to be in it. And Memphis, I think, is going to potentially let him play offense, which is kind of funny because he didn't have that opportunity at Colorado on a team that is famous for letting Travis Hunter do just that. So we'll see how it goes. But those are probably the 5 players that I think Ole Miss should go after. I think Ole Miss should go after Trent Howland. I think Ole Miss should go after Henry Parish. I think Ole Miss should go after Keyron Crawford. I think Ole Miss should go after Demouy Kennedy, and I think Ole Miss should go after Cormani McClain. Those are the 5 players that, in my opinion, would make Ole Miss even a little bit better talent-wise. Now, there's still questions about chemistry and all the stuff off the field that they have to worry about. I understand that. But if you're looking at just talent on the field and how they might be able to help the Ole Miss team out, these 5 players would put them in an excellent position to do just that. I'm pretty fired up about where they are. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day. ShaPadulla is inching closer to making a decision, and it is nowhere close to where we thought it would be yesterday. Guys, I need all of you to listen up to this huge announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eyes on the score, putting my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I'm finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly, and you can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the freaking moon, all the while raking in a huge fortune. You can charge rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends or go after Monopoly money by pulling bank heist or taking wrecking balls to your friends' landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards, where you can see a who's who and who is a Monopoly tycoon and who's going to go bankrupt. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover each and every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available in the free TV Fire TV channels app. Be part of history. All right, we're going to change gears a little bit right now, and we're going to talk about ShaPadulla. And just so people remember what ShaPadulla is, he averaged 16.4 points a game, 4.3 rebounds a year ago, and assists at 4.6. And the reason we're bringing him up, he was on a visit in Oxford, and TJ Oxley, our friend at the Rebel Walk, says it looks like Padulla has 2 schools sticking out. He is currently visiting Ole Miss. It may well be in the final 2. There are rumors of a Bama visit this week that I have seen may or may not happen. We'll see if it happens. Bama isn't one of the 2 we've heard. This is interesting because when you look at ShaPadulla coming into this, he was an Oklahoma commitment. He's from Oklahoma. There's a lot of Oklahoma that you have to deal with when dealing with ShaPadulla. After he visits Ole Miss, he decommits essentially, although I haven't seen the phrase decommitment, but if he was committed and now he's not, think about it, what it will, essentially. But the schools that Ole Miss could be dealing with, is Ole Miss one of the 2? Is Chris Beard working his magic? Is Chris Beard going to be able to get this guard? Because the way you look at this basketball team and how they've been constructed, and it's interesting to me, but you have like Michael Brown-Jones and you have Malik Dia, 6'9", 6'10" type big men. There's big men. Musa Cisse entered the transfer portal. He is going to be leaving Oxford, Mississippi. This is a situation to where he is building big to small. And if you look at the players that Ole Miss has committed, starts off with the big guys, Michael Brown-Jones, Malik Dia. Then all of a sudden it goes to the small forwards, the wing type players. That is Dre Davis. That is Devin Smith. Those 4 right there, now they've moved into guards. And you have ShaPadulla that's on a visit right now. He went over 30 points back-to-back games earlier this season. He can score the basketball. He can volume shoot at times as well, but he can score the basketball. And he's not the only one, because another player that Ole Miss is interested in is Pop Isaacs, who is from Texas Tech, averaged 15.8 points a game, 3.2 rebounds, 3.5 assists. This is a situation to where Chris Beard is now on the guards. It feels like I said, I don't know if it's absolutely true, but it feels like he's building this team big to small, and he's also building this first team and then second team, because this basketball team has been completely remade. Regardless of whether ShaPadulla or Pop Isaacs or anybody shows up on Ole Miss's campus, this basketball team has been completely remade. All of them can shoot the outside shot. Brown Jones and Malik Dia, they have inside games as big guys, which that's an interesting situation as well. But we'll see exactly how that goes. Scoring on the inside, as an Ole Miss fan, I don't even know if we are allowed to do stuff like that. But with Chris Beard cooking in the transfer portal, you have a situation to where Ole Miss could have twin portal kings on the staff at the same time. Chris Beard doing work, and then you have Lane Kiffin doing his work as well. We talked about the 5 players that I think Ole Miss football should go after. And those 5 would be Trent Howland, Henry Parish, Keyron Crawford, Cormani, McClain, and Demouy Kennedy. I think those are the 5 players that I think Ole Miss could get a little bit better if they sign that. Will Ole Miss go after them? We'll have to see how it works out. I just think that I would like to see that as well. I think that would fit. That would fit the way that I view roster construction and things like that to happen. That will help me in the schematic, difficultness, the complexity for that to build up, because Ole Miss is getting to the point. I know this is going to freak some people out, but especially Ole Miss football is getting to the point to where they're good enough to where they can be complex, good enough to where they can go slow. They're good enough to where they don't need a gimmick to move the football. They can just line up and play football and beat you. And that's where they're sitting in this transfer portal cycle. Speaking of the transfer portal window, May 1st is the important date. Ole Miss to this point has not been hurt very badly. I mean, it could happen. I'm getting ready to leave to go see the Tigers and the Rays, so I had to record early on Monday. So something could happen, but the way it sits right now, they're doing okay. If they can survive the end of this week, essentially, if we can get to this time next week with the roster intact, we can start having conversations about conference titles and national championships and playoff. All of that stuff can be a reality. They can be a real thing that everybody's going to talk about, and including me. And also coming in June, by the way, I have about a week to where I have family coming down. So the shows that week will be a little bit different. I mean, it might be a little bit spaced out. There might only be 3 shows that week. Understand, bear with me, be patient. But I have family coming down from Arkansas, and we're going to be doing Disney and all of that stuff. So be patient with that. Anyway, thank you very much for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen. We have one of the most perspective field shows on Ole Miss sports out there, and it's one of the many reasons we are the number 1 Ole Miss podcast, and thank you for that. But for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover each and every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available in the free Fire TV Channels app. And for those of you on YouTube, We'll send you there right now. Hotty toddy, everyone.